Not only that people can build with AI, but you can have so much fun with it. It's just so much fun to do and connective with other people. Especially at work, we were constantly being told, it's also in the media, it's not enough to just automate writing an email. You have to be able to build with AI. Well, what does even building with AI mean? And what does it mean for an engineer versus a product designer versus a marketer versus an accountant? It's no longer the case that technology is only in the hands of these tech bros. Anybody can use AI now, and anybody can use AI to build products that, again, used to only be in the hands of a certain set of individuals.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alex Panamarov, and welcome to the Thriving in Engineering podcast. Today, we're talking to Alyssa Fu Ward. Alyssa, welcome to the podcast. I'm glad that you join us today. Can you tell our listeners and viewers a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me here, Alex. I'm really excited to talk today on the podcast. My name is Alyssa Fu Ward, as Alex mentioned. I have a PhD from Stanford in behavioral science. So my background has always sort of started with this question of how do we human? And then since then, I've worked in industry as a data scientist at places like Meta and Twitter. So then I really got this technology piece and this technology experience, seeing how it's shaping us from the beginning at some of the biggest tech companies, of course. And then since then, I've become an executive coach, actually, where I'm helping people navigate transitions into AI and how do you navigate that with your identity as well as just like be productive with AI. And I also write for a newsletter called Step Up, Step Together, which is exploring questions around technology work and how to human.
Yeah, well, I've read your newsletter, and I think it's a very important topic today because AI is forcing us to change or adjust our own identity, and the question of where the human is in all this. I'm curious of what's driven you to do this work of helping people finding themselves in this equation.
Yeah. So especially in the technology world, what does it look like to sort of see how you fit into it?
Yeah.
I have so much I could say about that, but I'll try to focus in specifically with this world of AI because AI as a technology is so different from what we've seen in the past. It's no longer the case that technology is only in the hands of these tech bros and people who have technical experience. Anybody can use AI now, and anybody can use AI to build products that, again, used to only be in the hands of a certain set of individuals. And those products matter, things like social media and the fact that they have completely changed how we behave, how we interact with each other as individuals. That being said, because it is still a technology space, anybody can go into it, but most people think that they can't because they don't have that technical experience. But what I've learned over it's really only been this past year that I've been a power user of AI, kind of dabbling in it a little bit before then. But what I've learned, especially across my experience having worked with people and in technology and now playing around with what it looks like to use AI, I have a very unwavering conviction that people who do not have technical backgrounds can still build technical products without having to have that strong technical expertise. There's still little things here and there that people can learn, but just even that entry point of starting in there, it's really just talking to this entity that happens to be an AI.
Can you tell a bit more about human-centric AI capability framework that you developed and how it works?
Yeah. So last year I developed, as you mentioned, this human-centered AI capability framework. Where it came out of was because I was thinking so much around how there are many different ways that people can use AI and many different meanings people have for AI. I just kept observing over and over again everywhere. People were saying, use AI, but what does that actually mean? There's so many different ways. It just felt like people were talking past each other all the time. And the example that really stuck in my mind was this idea of, especially at work, we were constantly being told, it's also in the media, it's not enough to just automate writing an email. You have to be able to build with AI. Cool. Well, what does even building with AI mean? And what does it mean for an engineer versus a product designer versus a marketer versus an accountant? And so me being the social scientist, I wanted to break this apart into a space I could measure and easily see where we were. So my goal was, how can we sort of map how can you as a person map where I am currently with AI? I can say clearly, this is what I know how to do. Where I want to go, this is what I want to be able to build or do with AI and how to get there. So the way I did that in this framework is I created these 2 dimensions and I crossed them with each other so you can have this map. One of the dimensions is, what do you actually want to do with AI? What do you want AI to do for you? And the layers there are explore, just sort of brainstorm and have a conversation with it. Assist, have it actually do a small task for you. Collaborate, this is where it gets really interesting because you can start to co-create. You don't even know what you want. Your AI certainly won't know. And as you talk to it, you sort of build up and make connections together, the human and the AI. And then the last layer is automate. So that's where you're really starting to build an AI that can run on its own. But that's great, but then depending on the expertise of the person, how you do any of those 4 things can look different. So that's where the second dimension comes in, which is, what are the human skills that people know already or need to know to work with AI on certain use cases? So there the layers are articulation. Number 1, you need to be able to talk to the AI. And I purposely chose this word articulation versus say communication, because communication indicates that two-way street, which it certainly is. But in terms of a skill for a human, articulation to me really captured this idea that I, as a human, need to know what I want to say inside me, and I have to say it out loud. I have to articulate it as the human. And that's the base layer. People can get so far with just that piece across everything: brainstorming, writing emails, creating plans or books or anything you want. And automating, you can vibe code with an AI. Just tell it, hey, create this app for me, and it'll create it for you. I won't go into all the details for the other dimensions, but they include data. What inputs do you need to give to the AI? That's where context can start to come in a stronger way. Um, Systems. So now we're starting to connect different pieces together. There's something called an MCP, which just means that an AI can connect out to your Gmail, to Google, to Canva, to these different products that we also know. But what does that look like? What expertise do you need to know to do that? And the last one, of course, is the engineering layer. That's where, like, in the very bottom corner of, you need engineering to be able to automate, to do certain very heavy duty, change your company type skills. But does everybody need to do that? So maybe a marketer is really kind of in the top, the top left side of the quadrant. They can still learn a little bit of engineering, but maybe it's more in this like explore, assist space.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe that's as far as they need to go to still have value.
That is so interesting. When you were explaining this, I was thinking how close these layers and dimensions are to social skills outside of AI. If you want to interact with people, maybe you could use a similar framework, because a lot of engineers, and that's the area that I'm focused on, they would really benefit from having a framework, both to interact with AI as a human, but also to interact with other humans.
It's funny. Yeah, that's a common piece of feedback I hear when I share this framework. And actually, not even just this framework, but in general, when I'm talking with people about using AI and how we're learning to talk with AI, oftentimes people will say, I'm also learning how to communicate more clearly with humans. Because you have to do that with an AI. You have to know exactly what is the thing you're talking about. What is it that you want it to do? One thing with AI that I do is I even tell it how I'm feeling. I'm really frustrated by this problem. I can't figure it out. Help me with it. And then it knows to tailor its responses. But now I'm also learning how to say that to other people in a very clear way.
So that they can tailor their responses as well.
Yeah, exactly. We do it with each other.
Yeah, I'm gonna forward your framework to my engineering team, because this is a really good way of looking at this. Can you show an example of how how the process of someone using this framework, like putting it to work, looks like, and what they get, what improves if they get it right?
Yeah. So I actually have built an assessment app for this, where it basically shows you the grid, and then you just click through each piece and you rate yourself. And what you do is you actually rate yourself on where do you feel like your current skill is. And I think it's around, again, behavioral scientists. So I think of two dimensions, which is how do you feel about this skill? And the second is how much are you using it, your actual behavior? How much is it showing up there? But then the other thing you rate is future. How much do you actually want to be able to use this thing? How often do you want to use this thing? And that gets at the piece of like, I don't know how to do engineering plus automate, and I don't really want to learn how to do engineering plus automate. So maybe you don't need to do that. But the idea is that as you fill this out across the grid, you can also give reflections on like what that means for you. One is you can feed that information to an AI and then have a conversation with AI to get ideas about what to do. But the other thing is just in the basic output, it would show like a heat map. So like maybe like the top part where you actually can do it. Oh, I'm making myself blurry, but like would be like blue or something, like a nice comforting color. And then the part that like I want to do is more in this space, like a yellow or something. And the thing is, if you, for example, if you're like, I'm a marketer, I know how to talk to an AI to build a project plan, but I want to be able to build a dashboard that gives me the data of how, users are responding to my product. That's going to require me to do a little bit of data piece. Maybe how much do I need to do I need to like I want to automate the dashboard versus I just want a quick little like spreadsheet. And you can kind of identify that on the grid. And then okay, I need to know more about how data works and I need to work on my ability to work with the AI.
Yeah. I Is your app available to the general public? How do we how
How
do
do
we
you
use it?
use it? Yeah, it is. It's not quite available yet, but it will be soon. And I'll publish about it on my Substack.
Okay. Yeah, I'll keep track of it. One thing that is notable in your newsletter is that you're making this distinction between technical AI use, for example, when an engineer goes really deep, and more of a conversational use. Can you tell a bit more about this and why it's important to make this distinction?
Yeah. It's funny. I actually think of it in a slightly different way, which is that the lines are
Mm,
blurring between the two. So it's almost
okay.
like in the framework, for example, I think of these as layers that build on top of each other. So it's not necessarily like a progression where you have, like, there's a pinnacle, which is engineering, but it's more that to start with AI, you need to be able to just talk to it. And that's the conversational piece. And the reason why I make this distinction between conversation versus technical is because if a person hasn't used AI before, the associations with AI are so strong in the technical space, right? Like it was created by computer scientists. For a very long time, it's very technical in its bones. And then for a very long time, the use cases were very technical, things like vision processing and that kind of thing, where you really needed specialized knowledge to know how to use it and deploy it. But now with the sort of chat conversational AI, you really don't need to know those nuts and bolts. But again, as a social scientist, where I think about these associations that happen over time that are built into our society, AI itself is coded as being technical. So when people see that and they haven't used it yet, they think, "Oh, I can't use it. I don't know. It's not for me. I'm not technical enough." Among the many many other ways that people think about AI. And I even thought it myself, actually. I sort of resisted using AI for a while. I was like, I kind of know what that's about. Like someday I'll use it. And I actually
We
wrote
all
an
do.
article. Yeah, we all did. And I wrote an article actually on this called You Are Already Technical Enough for AI. And I go through my journey with these different pieces. I also draw illustrations, actually. And so I add these illustrations to my posts as well. But the point
Are
being
those hand
just,
driven? I've seen them on
oh,
Substack.
yeah, they are
Oh
hand
wow.
drawn and I do them digitally. I started this practice, I started drawing actually in 2019. So it wasn't the case I was sort of always an artist. And then
Wow.
the cartoons I draw, I'll talk a little bit about this. My
Please do.
main character is actually a little orange who is a little stick figure orange who represents me and represents humans. And the reason why I drew an orange was I can't draw people. And the simplest shape to draw is a circle with little stick legs. But the funny thing is, this orange has
Wow.
really become part of my brand. And nowadays, I have an orange and a robot, a purple robot who represents AI, and they interact with each other to show these like human AI dynamics. But yeah, so I wrote this post. Yeah, yeah, I wrote this post, and in fact, maybe this is the one I'll bring up, called "You Are Already Technical Enough for AI." And I drew my little robot, not my little orange going through the journey that I went through. Let me find it here. This one was published through a publication called Code Like a Girl, which is an amazing publication on Substack. Am I able to share this in a chat somewhere? Oh, here it is. Perfect.
Thank
So
you.
there, you can
I'll
take a
make
look at it
sure
there.
we share it with our
Yeah.
audience as well.
Yeah, for sure. Which is, it starts off with a little orange on an island who has these like existential eyes of like, oh my gosh, what is happening right now? And it's called Imposter Island. So the fact that I started that way, many of us start out this way where we think we can't use AI. There's sort of an imposter syndrome type thing happening there. And that the reason for it is because AI started out in computer science, and I draw a little like building, academic building with the AI inside it. And so I heard those terms, artificial intelligence, prompt engineering, MCP, and I just kind of filed it away in this file drawer in the back of my head called research later file drawer. I'll do that another time. But then I actually started to experiment with AI, and I show my orange kind of experimenting on a purple robot on a table. Um, and that's what I mean is that I learned, and I was really surprised to start with how much it really is. You just talk to the AI. You say, "Hey, I have this random idea. What do you think about it?" It responds, and that's not really what I meant. I meant this other thing instead. And you build up this world, this conversation together. And the amount of time, oh my gosh, I could go on and on about that. So I'll actually pause there.
Um, don't worry about it. I think it's an amazing story. There's a lot of anxiety right now amongst all of us that we're going to get replaced by AI, and I personally don't see this happening. And I think based on what I read in your newsletter, you would probably agree with that. That most likely we're not going to get replaced. We're going to expand, and we're going to do more with AI. What do you think about this? Am I right that that's the way you think about this? And how do you see this playing out?
I think there's two pieces to what you said that I'm hearing. The first is there is this fear, this anxiety around AI replacing your jobs. And it's an important one, and it's real in the sense that it feels real for people. And there is evidence, right, that there are companies who are doing layoffs, supposedly they say because of AI. So that is something really important to be sensitive to. And I'll be honest, for me, so I am very much on this optimistic side. And it's not just optimism, I see evidence for it as well that AI really can help expand what you can do as a human being. It doesn't just replicate what you do as a human being. I have this when I work with AI and when I see other people work with AI, and actually I'm in this Substack circle where most of the people I'm in the Substack circle where there are a ton of AI builders and most of them are women. And it's an incredible community of people. But what I see is, and what I believe is, humans and AI will be able to work together until we hit a certain limit. So right now, that limit's actually human related, where like the human can only do so much with AI, and we're still learning about what we can do with AI. But I truly believe at some point, and actually we feel this even in individual conversations, that we hit a limit to what AI can do. You say, "Can you build this thing for me? Can you create an illustration for me?" And it just won't do it. And no matter how many times you say, "Fix this arm and fix this eye," it can't do it. And I have another example for that that's related to your second point. Um, but I think that humans will always, I feel this conviction, be able to go beyond it. And there's two reasons why that's the case. The first is you will always have the creatives, the dreamers, the people who will want to think about more. And the other is that humans are complainers and they always want things to be better, and they're going to complain, and they'll find something that's wrong that they want to fix. And so I think between those two things, there's so much AI can help us do, and then humans will just always be thinking of something new that the AI cannot come up with by itself.
Yeah, this is so much true. Do you think that we can use AI in our day-to-day lives and work without losing ourselves, without losing our creative side, without losing
Mm.
our edge?
Yeah. Okay. So many things there. That's one thing that makes it so hard to talk about AI is there's so many different ways to talk about it. And I get very excited about the things that we can do. Again, I want to be sensitive to the things that are problems and negative consequences of using AI that we need to pay attention to. So, for example, when you ask that question, my first reaction is you can use AI without losing yourself, without eroding yourself. But then, of course, I think about the cases where people are losing themselves into AI, and those are really important pieces to pay attention to. My general philosophy is there's a lot of writing about that already. There's a lot of thoughtful people who are in that space, and I pay attention to them. But for me and my platform, I think a lot about what we can do. So, in that sense, I'm going to talk a little bit about what that looks like. Um, One, in my day to day, I'll just give a small example. And I write about all these things in Substack, so anybody can kind of check it out. I write about how I cook with AI. And that sounds like it could be, I mean, that sounds kind of intriguing. It can also sound like, okay, great, that's an everyday task. But for me, it's actually deeply meaningful that I can use AI to help me cook. I am not a cook. I get really frustrated cooking. And I get really stressed out cooking. And I'm like managing timings and just like the way my brain works, I get really stressed out. Using AI has just really helped make has really helped make cooking just such a better experience. I can talk to it. I can tell it, "Hey, this thing looks weird and it smells weird. What's going on with it?" I send it a picture and it's like, "Oh, yes, Alyssa, you forgot to add sugar." Or like, "Oh, you let it burn for too long. Like, let's make it again." And then we make it again. And it's just kind of transformed that experience for me. I have another example I want to share in terms of art because you mentioned that earlier. And for a long time, I was on the fence and debating, should I use AI for art? Should I not? What does it mean? And I realized that the things I was most afraid of was what other people thought, because there are a lot of opinions out there about what people think what AI means for art. The replacement story is definitely very strong among the creative community. But I like to play and I like to experiment, and so I started doing that more. For me, in my drawings, I learned that one, AI does a somewhat good job replicating my style, but it doesn't do it completely, or it makes it kind of complicated, or it oversimplifies. It's one thing I do in my illustrations is I actually use AI to help me create reference images. So in the past, my process would be like, I want to draw an orange who's playing hockey. That's not a thing that really exists. So I'd have to look up oranges. I'd have to look up hockey players. I'd have to try to put them together. It never looked quite right. Now I can just tell AI, hey, create an orange who plays hockey. That particular image, and again, I have a post where I actually shared that example. It had like a third arm, which I just find it hilarious. I have so much fun working with AI. But and then I draw it myself. Then I make it look the way I want it to make sure it doesn't have that extra arm.
This is such a great story, such a great example of how you stay playful, but you still use, all the tools that are available. By the way, I have a friend who's into gardening now. He wasn't doing any gardening, but now he's using AI to guide him. He always wanted to do it, but again, he never knew where to start, and now it kind of works for him. Speaking about what people think, you're coaching people, right? And you're coaching engineers, you're coaching leaders, as far as I know.
Mhm.
What are they thinking? What are they worried about?
Yeah. I think it takes on two flavors, and it's at the individual level for how they're thinking about their own ability to use AI. But it's also, I mean, the broader one is really how do they help their employees, their company, their organization navigate AI? So that's actually the first one. That's the most overt one. That's the one everybody's talking about. But then underneath it is this, ugh, I'm not even using AI. Like, how can I help people navigate AI if I'm not even using it? Um, those are the two biggest things that come out, and we were talking about this earlier, right? Where how AI the changes that AI is bringing is not just structural. It's not just, okay, automate the work that you're doing. It's like really about your identity. Who are you now that an AI, this almost human-like entity, can do work that you've done, can almost think like you, but not quite think like you? And where do you fit in into that space? So and then there's just that added pressure of like, and you're supposed to know the answers to be able to guide your organization through this change.
Oh yeah, that I can relate to that 100%, and I know a lot of people are thinking about the same thing. Um, Speaking of that, what would be the most important advice you can give to people who are already using AI every day, and it changes them. It changes their identity. It starts to shape them. What would you tell them to focus on? What they should pay attention to, kind of stay true to themselves?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I have two parts to this answer, but it's actually sort of the same answer. And this also applies for anybody who's just starting with AI to who's already using it, who's an expert. And actually, it also applies to work even if you're not using AI. My North Star is really about what is it that gives you energy when you're working, and what is it that drains your energy. And the thing is, with AI, so much of what it can do can automate the work that drains your energy so that you can then do the work that really fills you up and gives you energy. Um, and the AI is able to actually help you there. So this actually also comes back to this question of, will AI replace me? I think it's almost like, what is it that you would want AI to replace for
Hmm.
you, and learn how to build those things? And then what is it that you truly love to do, that if you could spend all your time doing, what is that? Because nobody has time to do that in a job. Everybody's always saying, oh, I wish I had more time. I can't do this. We need more resources. And so I find it interesting that now we have a technology that can actually allow that to happen. So find a way to automate the things that you don't want to do. Help that free you up for what you do want to do. And the fun thing is, if you don't exactly know what that is, you can talk to the AI and have it help you work through what is it that you want to do.
Yeah, this is such an amazing advice. I think it's applicable to almost anyone. It's almost like AI is this exoskeleton that now allows you to run faster, climb any heights, lift any weight, but you're still driving the exoskeleton. You still choose where to go, what you want to do. You choose your own path. Alyssa, thank you so much for joining today. I think your perspective is truly unique,
Mm.
and I'm sure our readers and listeners would enjoy reading your Substack and trying your tool to evaluate themselves. And by the way, we didn't mention your open source project. I think we should spend a few minutes before we wrap up. Can you tell a bit
Yeah.
more about it?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Because I also wanted to make a plug for community and the importance of community in building with AI. Um, this is what led me to build this open source project, which I'll talk about, but I'll say a little bit about community first, which is it's been really top of mind for me, thinking about how important community is for building with AI, and then of course thinking about what the effect is on the community to have AI. And one reason why this is so salient to me right now is because I feel like most of the narratives that are happening around AI are so focused on the individual. How is AI going to affect you? What can you do to make sure you're not going to replace yourself? And the thousands of trainings out there, which in my opinion, a lot of them are based on urgency and hype, and they're focused on what skills you can create. And like I said, I'm in the Substack community of mostly women, where it's become so clear to me how much we support each other, we grow from each other, we learn from each other. So that actually also ties into this open source project, is I've been watching women physically build products, apps, workflows through Substack. They talk about it and they share those things that they're building. But everyone's sort of doing it by themselves in silos. There's sometimes partnerships. But I just started thinking about what it could look like if we learned how to build together. And also, because we're getting to a point, so my first usual point is, you don't need to have technical skills to work with an AI to start. You just need conversation. But at some point, when you do start to build more technical products, which you can do through conversation with AI, but there are still going to be best practices that you might just not know to apply. And you can talk to the AI and you can ask it, but there's only so much it can know because it's building off of what you tell it. So I wanted to create an opportunity for people, especially women, to build together in a fun way, in a community-driven way, and also learn some of those best practices for technology, which I have experience with and I would love to share. So I built an open source project. Open source just means that we're building with code together in public. It's not hidden behind a wall for a company. It's not me just building by myself. Um, And the premise of it is it's actually sort of a social media like type concept, the actual product. You basically, it's like a set of tiles that represent rooms. The product's called Open Room. You reserve for yourself a room, and then you can build it however you want with AI. So one example is I have a gallery in there of all of my illustrations, and you can click on them and go out to Substack and see them. Or there's a woman on Substack called Natalie Nicholson, and she does a lot of music. She does a lot of art. I'll have stories there I would have wanted to share in the podcast, but for another time. Um, but she wants to create like a music store or jukebox where you can click on things and see. And there's so many different possibilities, interactive ways you could play games with each other. I was thinking you can hide gifts for each other in each other's rooms, like just very community driven. That's the actual product itself. How to build it is us, non-technical people. And the idea is that you talk to your AI, you give it the URL that has all the code in it, and you just say, "Hey, help me build my room." And then it'll walk through a workflow with you. What's your name? How do you want to? What image do you want to put in? How do you want to do it? And then it'll build the room for you. And then we actually go. This is actually going through the entire build process. People have to create what's called a branch, and then they make their change, and then they put it up into a space, into the remote space. Now I'm getting into my technical details, but you put it into a space where I can review it and say, you know what, this looks good. Let's publish it to the live site. And that's an engineering, as you know, life cycle. But we're putting in the hands of people who they don't need to know all those details. They just need to make sure that they're building in a way that's safe, responsible, and scalable.
This sounds very exciting. I think we should share it with more people so that we get more women, maybe men, if you allow that,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
to participate, because it sounds like a really cool community-driven platform that is also source.
Yeah. Of course. I mean, my focus is on helping create spaces that are warm and welcoming for anybody to learn how to build with AI, but women especially, because, technical spaces haven't been, don't, are predominantly men in that space. And here now is a technology that's just so open for anybody. And women, well, we talked about this all earlier, but the ability to communicate, the ability to see intentions, the ability to sort of shift depending on how the conversation's going. Those are all skills that we've been socialized to have as women. We're not necessarily born with them, but we've been socialized to do that. And it works so well with AI. But anybody is welcome to build in here. At the very least, it's a really, I think, easy way to learn a build process. It's very interactive. It's so fun to click through the rooms. So then the product itself is just really fun. And actually, I'll share, which I shared this with you earlier. The premise of this is anybody can build with AI, technical products with AI. I actually ran my 70-year-old mother, and my 8-year-old daughter through this process. So they both built rooms there and there. And just today, I actually published the video where we walked through it together. And that just felt so special to me. And it just really highlighted for me, not only that people can build with AI, but you can have so much fun with it. It's just so much fun to do and connective with other people.
Well, Alyssa, thank you so much for joining today. You shared so many nuggets, so many useful and practical information, but also a few products that you're building that are also very interesting and useful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This was wonderful.